My name is Julian Kepler, and I'm a systems analyst who thought he understood patterns until my wife decided to rewrite our entire marriage without telling me. It started on a Tuesday night in our pristine suburban Chicago home. Kara sat curled on our beige couch, her manicured fingers dancing across her phone screen like a pianist hitting familiar keys. The sound of her laughter, light, musical, completely unlike the tired sighs she'd been giving me for months, made me look up from my laptop. "What's so funny?" I asked, genuinely curious. She glanced at me with those green eyes that used to make my chest tight with affection. Now they held something else. Calculation, maybe? "Just the girls being ridiculous," she said, waving her phone. Lena's giving relationship advice again. Lena Morell, Kara's best friend since college, recently divorced, and apparently our marriage's new consultant. I'd watched Lena transform from a happily married suburban mom into what she called a liberated woman after her husband left her for his dental hygienist. Now she spent her days posting inspirational quotes about self-worth and her nights teaching other wives how to reclaim their power. "What pearls of wisdom is she sharing tonight?" I asked, closing my laptop. Kara's smile was too bright, like stage lighting. "She thinks I should be more demanding, that I let you take me for granted." "Do I take you for granted?" "Do you?" I studied my wife of 8 years. Kara had always been ambitious, climbing the marketing ladder at her downtown firm with the same determination she brought to everything else. Our house looked like a magazine spread because she willed it that way. Our social calendars stayed full because she networked like it was an Olympic sport. Even our conversations felt choreographed lately, like she was performing rather than talking. "I don't think so," I said carefully. "But if you feel that way, we should talk about it." She tilted her head, studying me like I was a puzzle with missing pieces. "When's the last time you fought for me, Julian? Really fought?" "Fought for you how?" "Passion," she said, drawing out the word. "When's the last time you showed real emotion about us?" I felt that familiar tightness in my chest, the one that showed up whenever Kara started speaking in riddles. "I show you I care every day. I work, I contribute to our life together, "You exist," she interrupted. "There's a difference." Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and that bright smile returned, the one I apparently couldn't inspire anymore. "I'm going to bed," she announced, standing and stretching. "Don't stay up too late with your computers." After she left, I sat in our perfect living room and wondered when exactly my marriage had become a performance I wasn't invited to rehearse for. The next morning, Kara was already gone when I woke up. She'd left coffee in the pot, lukewarm like her goodbye note. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up. K." I spent the day troubleshooting network issues for a manufacturing company, losing myself in the clean logic of code and systems. Problems had solutions. Variables had values. Everything made sense until you introduced human error. That evening, I was heating leftover pizza when Kara's laptop chimed from the kitchen counter. She'd left it open, her email account still active. I wasn't snooping. The notification just appeared on the screen like a digital billboard. The subject line made my stomach drop. "Can't wait for tomorrow night. E." I stared at that email preview for a long moment, my mind automatically cataloging possibilities. E could be anyone. Ellen from her yoga class, Eric from accounting, Emma, her college roommate who lived in Seattle. But something about the phrasing felt wrong, too intimate, too eager. I closed the laptop without opening the message. If Kara wanted privacy, she could have it. I wasn't the kind of husband who checked up on his wife, except I couldn't stop thinking about it. Thursday night, Kara came home glowing. She'd changed her perfume, something lighter, more expensive. Her hair was different too, styled in loose waves instead of her usual neat bun. "How was your day?" I asked as she kicked off her heels. "Productive," she said, not meeting my eyes. Elias and I finally finished the Morrison account presentation. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Elias Corvin, Kara's coworker, recently transferred from the New York office. I'd met him once at a company party. Tall, confident, the kind of man who wore expensive watches and spoke in sound bites. He'd shaken my hand with the grip of someone marking territory. "That's great," I said. "When's the presentation?" "Next week." She was already heading upstairs. "I need a shower." I listened to the water running and tried to convince myself that the knot in my stomach was just indigestion. Friday morning brought another email notification on Kara's laptop. This time I looked. "Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about your hands." E. I read it 3 times before the words fully registered. Then I sat down hard in one of our kitchen chairs, staring at the screen like it might rearrange itself into something less devastating. My wife was having an affair. The rational part of my brain, the systems analyst part, immediately started processing the data. The late nights, the new perfume, the sudden interest in my emotional availability, the way she'd been pushing me to fight for her. She wasn't having an affair. She was orchestrating one. This was all part of some elaborate test, some game designed to provoke a reaction from me. I closed the laptop and went to work, moving through my day like I was underwater. Everything felt muffled and strange, like I was watching my life happen to someone else. That evening, Kara suggested we go out for dinner. She wore a red dress I'd never seen before and spent most of the meal texting. "Who keeps messaging you?" I asked finally. "Just work stuff," she said, not looking up. "Elias has some ideas about the Morrison presentation." "At 9 p.m. on a Friday?" She finally looked at me and I saw something flicker across her face. Disappointment, maybe, like I'd failed another test I didn't know I was taking. "He's dedicated," she said. "It's refreshing to work with someone so passionate." There was that word again. Passionate, like she was speaking in code. "Kara," I said, reaching across the table to touch her hand. "What's really going on here?" She pulled her hand away. "What do you mean?" "You've been different lately. Distant, like you're waiting for something." Her smile was sharp as broken glass. "Maybe I am?" That night, I lay awake listening to Kara breathe beside me and tried to figure out when exactly I'd become the villain in my own marriage. When had loving someone quietly become the same as not loving them at all? Saturday morning, Kara announced she was going shopping with Lena. She left in a cloud of that new perfume, her phone already buzzing with messages. I spent the day cleaning our house, really cleaning, not just the surface straightening Kara preferred. I needed to move, to do something with my hands while my mind worked through the problem. Because that's what this was, a problem with variables and parameters, just like the systems I fixed for a living. Kara wanted passion. She wanted me to fight. She'd apparently enlisted Elias to help her get a reaction out of me. Fine. She wanted to see me fight? I could do that. I started with her laptop, which she'd carelessly left open again. This time I didn't just glance at the email notifications. I opened her account and read everything. The messages between Kara and Elias went back 3 weeks. They started professional, discussions about client presentations and marketing strategies. Then they shifted into something else entirely. Compliments about her ideas, her appearance, her wasted potential with a husband who didn't appreciate her properly. But it was the messages between Kara and Lena that really opened my eyes. "Is he jealous yet?" Lena had written 2 days ago. "Not yet," Kara replied. "But Elias thinks we should escalate things, really make Julian notice. Just be careful. You don't want to actually have an affair." "I know. But if Julian won't fight for our marriage, maybe he doesn't deserve it." I sat back in my chair, a strange calm settling over me. So this was all theater. Kara and her divorce-happy friend had cooked up a scheme to test my devotion, with Elias as a willing participant. They wanted to see me lose control, get emotional, prove my love through jealousy and drama. They had no idea who they were playing with. I spent the rest of Saturday researching Elias Corvin, social media profiles, professional background, financial records, everything I could access legally. By evening, I had a complete picture of Kara's co-conspirator. Elias had a pattern. 3 jobs in 5 years, each ending with whispers about inappropriate workplace relationships. A divorce 2 years ago, with his ex-wife citing emotional manipulation. In the court filings. Credit card debt despite his 6-figure salary. A man who collected other people's wives like trophies and moved on when the novelty wore off. But here was the interesting part. Elias didn't know this was supposed to be fake. His messages to Kara had shifted from playful to possessive over the past week. He was falling for her performance, thinking he was seducing a neglected wife instead of participating in an elaborate manipulation. Kara had created a triangle where she was the only one who knew all the angles. She thought she was controlling both of us. Time to change the rules of her game. When Kara came home that evening, I was waiting in our living room with a glass of wine and a smile. "How was shopping?" I asked. "Fine," she said, studying my face like she was looking for cracks. "You seem different." "Do I?" I stood up and walked over to her, close enough to smell that expensive perfume. Maybe I'm finally waking up? Something flickered in her eyes. Hope? Fear? I couldn't tell. "What do you mean?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I think it's time we both stopped pretending." I handed her the paper and watched her face change as she unfolded it. Divorce papers. I'd spent 2 hours that afternoon with a lawyer, getting the preliminary documents drawn up. Julian, she whispered, her face going pale. What is this? It's me fighting for something, I said calmly. Just not what you expected. She stared at the papers like they might burst into flames. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. You want passion, Kara? You want to see me care enough to take action? Congratulations. You got your wish. I walked past her toward the stairs, pausing at the bottom step. Oh, and Kara, tell Elias I said hello. I'm looking forward to getting to know him better. Her sharp intake of breath followed me up the stairs like applause. The game was officially on. Sunday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that usually made me want to rake leaves and drink coffee on our back porch. Instead, I woke up to the sound of Kara's voice drifting up from the kitchen, sharp with panic. Lena, I'm telling you, he knows something. He handed me divorce papers like he was passing the salt. I stayed in bed, listening to her pace across our hardwood floors, her bare feet slapping against the wood in an anxious rhythm. No, I don't think he read the emails. Julian's not the snooping type. But something changed. He was so calm. It was terrifying. Interesting. In Kara's world, my lack of hysteria was more frightening than if I'd thrown furniture and demanded explanations. She'd expected tears, pleading, maybe a dramatic confrontation with Elias. Instead, I'd handed her legal documents and walked away. What do you mean, abort the plan? Lena, we've come this far. Elias thinks... Well, he thinks this is real now. I can't just tell him it was all fake. I smiled into my pillow. So Elias had moved beyond willing participant into true believer. That made things more interesting. Look, I have to go. He's probably listening. I'll call you later. Footsteps on the stairs. I closed my eyes and regulated my breathing, pretending to sleep as Kara crept into our bedroom. She stood there for a long moment. I could feel her watching me, probably trying to figure out her next move. When I finally went downstairs an hour later, she was gone. A note on the counter said she'd gone for a run, but her running shoes were still by the front door. I made coffee and settled in with her laptop, which she'd left open in her hurry. Careless. The old Kara never would have made that mistake. Her email showed 3 new messages from Elias, each more urgent than the last. Kara, call me. We need to talk about last night. Your husband suspects something. We should meet. I can't stop thinking about you. Whatever happens, I want you to know this is real for me. I leaned back in my chair, impressed despite myself. Elias was good at this. He'd managed to make their fake affair feel genuine, at least to himself. No wonder Kara was panicking. She'd lost control of her own manipulation. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek Hunt, my oldest friend and the owner of Hunt's Auto Repair on the South Side. Derek and I had grown up together, 2 working-class kids who'd taken different paths but never lost touch. Beer tonight? Sarah's making her famous chili. Sarah Hunt was Derek's wife, and unfortunately part of Kara's social circle. If I played this right, Sarah could be a valuable source of information about the gossip network Kara and Lena had been building. Sounds perfect. See you at 7. I spent the day researching Elias more thoroughly, using techniques I'd learned during my brief stint in corporate security before transitioning to systems analysis, public records, professional networks, even his social media activity patterns. By afternoon, I had enough information to ruin him professionally and socially, but that would be too easy, too quick. Kara came home around 5, her cheeks flushed from what had obviously been a long conversation rather than a run. She found me in my home office, apparently absorbed in work. Julian? Her voice was smaller than usual, uncertain. About last night. What about it? I didn't look up from my screen. The papers. You can't really want a divorce. Now I turned to face her. She was still beautiful. That hadn't changed. But I was starting to see the calculation behind her expressions, the way she modulated her voice for effect. Why not? You've been telling me for weeks that I don't fight for you, that I take you for granted. Maybe you're right. Maybe we both deserve better. I didn't mean... She stopped, seeming to realize she was about to confess to the manipulation. I just meant we should work harder at our marriage. By testing me? By seeing how far you can push before I break? Her face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. I stood up, moving close enough to see the pulse hammering in her throat. You and Lena cooked up this little scheme to make me jealous. Get me to show some passion. Prove I care enough to fight. Julian. The problem is, you picked the wrong man to help you. Elias doesn't know this is supposed to be fake, does he? He thinks he's actually seducing you. She took a step back, her hand flying to her throat. How do you know about Elias? Kara, you left your laptop open for 3 days straight. Either you wanted me to find those messages, or you've gotten incredibly sloppy. Tears started gathering in her eyes. Real ones, I thought, not the performance tears she'd been practicing. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she whispered. How was it supposed to happen? I find out about your affair, lose my mind with jealousy, fight Elias for your honor? Then you reveal it was all a test, and we live happily ever after? She nodded miserably. Well, congratulations. You got a reaction. Just not the one you wanted. I grabbed my jacket from the back of my chair. I'm having dinner with Derek and Sarah tonight. Don't wait up. Where are we supposed to go from here? She called as I headed for the door. I have no idea, I said truthfully. But I guess we'll find out. Derek and Sarah's house was everything ours wasn't. Lived in, comfortable, real. Their kitchen table was scarred from years of family dinners, and their living room actually looked like people relaxed in it. Sarah greeted me with a hug and a concerned expression. Kara couldn't make it? She had other plans, I said, accepting a beer from Derek. We ate chili and talked about everything except my marriage for the first hour. Derek told stories about his latest difficult customers, Sarah updated me on neighborhood gossip, and I almost forgot about the mess waiting for me at home. Then Sarah brought up Lena. I swear that woman has lost her mind since her divorce, Sarah said, ladling out seconds. She's been filling all the wives' heads with nonsense about reclaiming their power and testing their relationships. Derek shot her a warning look, but Sarah was just getting started. Last week at book club, she spent an hour telling us how marriage is just a power struggle, and most husbands need to be awakened to appreciate what they have. Awakened how? I asked casually. Oh, make them jealous, flirt with other men, show them what they could lose. Sarah paused, seeming to realize she might be saying too much. Not that Kara would ever... she's always been so devoted to you. Has she? I met Sarah's eyes across the table. Lately? Sarah glanced at Derek, who was suddenly very interested in his chili. Julian, is everything okay at home? I made a decision. Sarah was a gossip, but she was also fundamentally decent, and she had connections to every wife in our social circle. Kara's been spending a lot of time with a coworker named Elias, I said carefully. Late nights, text messages, new clothes. I'm starting to wonder if Lena's advice is more than theoretical. Sarah's eyes went wide. Oh my God. Julian, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Neither did I. Until recently. Derek leaned forward. What do you need, man? You want me to have a conversation with this Elias guy? I smiled at my oldest friend's immediate offer of support. Thanks, but I think I can handle it. I just wanted you both to know what was happening in case things get complicated. Complicated how? Sarah asked. Let's just say I'm not planning to handle this the way Kara expects. I left Derek and Sarah's house with a plan forming in my mind. Sarah would spread the word about Kara's affair through her network, carefully, sympathetically, but thoroughly. By tomorrow evening, half the neighborhood would know that Julian Kepler's wife was stepping out on him. But first, I needed to have a conversation with Elias. Monday morning, I called in sick to work and drove downtown to Kara's office building. I knew her schedule, client meeting from 9 to 11, then lunch with her team. That gave me a window to catch Elias alone. The building directory listed him on the 14th floor. I took the elevator up and found him in a corner office with a view of the lake, talking on his phone in the confident tones of a man who thought he was winning. I waited until he hung up, then knocked on his open door. Elias Corvin? He looked up, and I watched recognition dawn on his face. To his credit, he didn't flinch. You must be Julian, he said, standing up and extending his hand. I've heard a lot about you. I shook his hand, noting the expensive watch, the perfectly fitted suit, the calculated charm. Up close, he was exactly what I'd expected. Handsome in a generic way, confident without substance. Ah, I bet you have, I said. Mind if we talk? He gestured to a chair across from his desk. Of course. What can I do for you? I sat down and studied him for a moment. He was nervous. I could see it in the way he adjusted his tie, the slight tremor in his hands, but he was trying to brazen it out. You can start by telling me what your intentions are regarding my wife. His face went carefully blank. I'm not sure what you mean. Sure you do. The late-night text messages, the intimate emails, the sudden interest in her marriage problems. What's your endgame here, Elias? He leaned back in his chair, and I saw him make a decision. The mask slipped, revealing something harder underneath. Your wife is a remarkable woman, he said. Beautiful, intelligent, ambitious. She deserves better than a husband who takes her for granted. And you think you're better? I think I see her value. I appreciate her in ways you obviously don't. I nodded slowly. That's interesting, because from where I sit, it looks like you're just another predator who specializes in unhappy wives. How many marriages have you helped destroy, Elias? His jaw tightened. I don't destroy anything. I just offer alternatives. To married women. To women who are already looking. I stood up, smoothing down my jacket. Here's the thing, Elias. Kara wasn't looking. She was testing. This whole thing, the flirting, the messages, the late nights, it was all an elaborate game designed to make me jealous. His face went pale. That's not... She wouldn't... She would. And she did. The problem is, you fell for it. You actually think this is real. I leaned forward, placing my hands on his desk. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop contact with my wife. No more emails, no more texts, no more working late. Because if you don't, I'm going to make your life very unpleasant. He tried to rally. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. See, I know about your pattern, Elias. 3 jobs in 5 years, each ending with workplace relationship problems. Your ex-wife's divorce filing, which mentions emotional manipulation and infidelity. Your credit card debt, your gambling problem, your habit of borrowing money from female colleagues. His face was gray now. How did you... I'm a systems analyst. I solve problems by gathering data. And you, Elias, are a problem with a very clear solution. I straightened up, adjusting my own jacket. Stay away from my wife. Stay away from my marriage. Find yourself a nice single woman to manipulate, because this one is off limits. I was almost to the door when he found his voice. She came to me, he said desperately. Kara made the first move. I turned back, smiling for the first time since I'd entered his office. I know, I said. That's what makes this so much fun. I left him sitting in his expensive office, staring at his phone like it might explode. Phase 1 complete. By Tuesday evening, the gossip network was humming with activity. Sarah had done her job perfectly, spreading the word about Kara's affair with just the right mix of concern and discretion. Nothing malicious, just a worried friend sharing her fears about a marriage in trouble. I knew because Kara came home that night looking like she'd been through a blender. People are talking, she said without preamble, dropping her purse by the door and fixing me with an accusing stare. Are they? I was making dinner, pasta with marinara, nothing fancy, and didn't look up from the stove. Don't play dumb, Julian. Someone's been spreading rumors about me and Elias. What kind of rumors? That we're having an affair, that I'm cheating on you. I turned to face her, wooden spoon still in my hand. Well, aren't you? No, I mean... She stopped, realizing she was about to confess to the manipulation again. It's not what people think. What do people think? That I'm a cheating wife and you're some kind of victim. I considered this. And the problem is? The problem is it's not true. Which part? The cheating wife part or the victim part? She stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Julian, this is serious. My reputation is being destroyed. Your reputation. I nodded thoughtfully. The same reputation you were willing to risk to test our marriage? That was different. That was private. Nothing's private once you involve other people, Kara. You brought Elias into our marriage, Lena into our business. Did you really think it would stay contained? She sank into one of our kitchen chairs, looking smaller than I'd seen her in years. I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? I just wanted you to care, to show some emotion, to fight for us. I turned off the stove and sat down across from her. I am fighting, Kara, just not the way you expected. By humiliating me? By protecting myself? You want to play games with our marriage? Fine, but you don't get to control the rules once the game starts. My phone buzzed with a text. Derek. Sarah says Lena's been calling around, doing damage control. Thought you should know. I showed Kara the message. Looks like your co-conspirator is scrambling. She's not my co-conspirator. She's my friend. Friends don't encourage you to manipulate your husband. She thought she could use you to validate her own divorce. Misery loves company, Kara. Lena wanted you to be as unhappy as she is. Kara's phone rang. Speak of the devil. Don't answer it, I said. I have to. She's probably freaking out. Let her. But Kara was already swiping to accept the call. Lena? No. I can't talk right now. Julian's... Yes, he knows. I don't know how, but he knows everything. I could hear Lena's voice through the phone, high-pitched with panic. I can't just call Elias and tell him it was fake, Kara continued. He thinks... God, Lena, he thinks he's in love with me. More frantic chattering from Lena. What do you mean your boss called you in? What does this have to do with your job? I smiled. Phase 2 was ahead of schedule. Kara hung up and stared at her phone like it had betrayed her. Lena's in trouble at work. Someone sent her boss screenshots of her social media posts about liberating married women. Apparently, it's not the image they want their senior marketing director projecting. Imagine that, I said mildly. Julian? Her voice was very quiet. Did you send those screenshots? Me? I barely use social media. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. She was quiet for a long moment, studying my face like she was seeing me for the first time. Who are you? She whispered. I'm your husband, the one you decided to test instead of trust. Wednesday brought new developments. Kara left for work early, probably hoping to avoid more neighborhood gossip. I waited until 9, then called her office. Kara Kepler's line. Hi, this is Julian Kepler, Kara's husband. I was hoping to speak with someone about the Morrison account presentation. Oh, Mr. Kepler. Let me transfer you to Mr. Corvin. He's been working closely with your wife on that project. Perfect. Julian? Elias sounded surprised and wary. What can I do for you? I wanted to apologize for Monday. I was out of line coming to your office like that. Silence. Then, okay. The thing is, I've been thinking about what you said. About Kara deserving better. Maybe you're right. What? I've been a terrible husband. Neglectful, unappreciative. If Kara has found someone who values her properly, maybe I should step aside. More silence. I could practically hear the gears turning in his head. Are you saying you'd give her a divorce? I'm saying I want her to be happy. If that's with you, then maybe that's how it should be. Julian, I don't know what to say. Say you'll take care of her. That's all I want to hear. After I hung up, I sat back and waited. It took exactly 47 minutes for my phone to ring. Julian, what did you say to Elias? Kara's voice was sharp with panic. I told him the truth, that you deserve to be happy. What truth? Julian, he thinks you're giving me permission to leave you for him. Aren't I? No, this was never about leaving you. It was about making you fight for me. I am fighting for me, Kara. There's a difference. Julian, please, you have to call him back. Tell him you didn't mean it. Why would I do that? Because he's talking about us running away together. He wants me to quit my job and move to Seattle with him? I felt a genuine surge of satisfaction. Elias had taken the bait perfectly. Sounds romantic, I said. It's not romantic, it's insane. Julian, I don't want to move to Seattle. I don't want to leave my job. I don't want to leave you. Then don't. He thinks I'm in love with him. Then tell him you're not. I can't. If I tell him this was all fake, he'll expose everything. He'll tell everyone I was manipulating him, manipulating you. My career will be over. And there it was, the trap she'd built for herself. She couldn't confess to Elias without destroying her professional reputation. She couldn't keep up the pretense without losing everything else. Sounds like you have a problem, I said. We have a problem, Julian. We're married. Are we? Because the woman I married wouldn't have played games with our relationship. She wouldn't have involved other people in our private business. She wouldn't have lied to me for weeks. I never lied. You lied every day. Every time you pretended those text messages were from the girls. Every time you claimed you were working late when you were really planning your next move with Elias. Every time you looked me in the eye and made me feel like I was failing as a husband when you were the one sabotaging our marriage. She was crying now. Real tears, not performance tears. Julian, please, I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake, but we can fix this. How? I don't know, but we can figure it out together. Together. I tasted the word like it was foreign. Like we should have done from the beginning? Yes, exactly like that. I was quiet for a long moment, letting her hope build. Okay, I said finally. Okay? Let's figure it out together, but first you need to clean up the mess you made. How? Tell Elias the truth, all of it. That this was a test, that you never intended to leave me, that he was just a prop in your little drama. Julian, I can't. If I do that, then we don't have a marriage to save. I hung up and turned off my phone. That evening, I drove to Derek's shop. I found him under the hood of a vintage Mustang, grease up to his elbows, and a satisfied expression on his face. Julian, didn't expect to see you tonight. I need a favor, I said. Derek straightened up, wiping his hands on a rag. Name it. Remember that time in high school when Tommy Morrison spread those rumors about you and Janet Phillips? Derek's face darkened. Tommy Morrison had been the kind of bully who used gossip as a weapon. and he'd nearly destroyed Derek's relationship with his first serious girlfriend. Yeah, I remember. You helped me set the record straight. Public humiliation, I said. At the homecoming dance, in front of everyone. Tommy never bothered anyone again after that night. Derek studied my face. You thinking about some public humiliation of your own? Something like that. What do you need? I told him about Saturday night's charity gala, the annual fundraiser for the Children's Hospital, where Kara was scheduled to give a presentation about her company's community outreach program. Half of our social circle would be there, along with most of her professional network. You want me to be there as backup? Derek asked. I want you to bring Sarah, and maybe mention to a few people that they might want to pay attention to Kara's presentation. Derek grinned. This is about more than just backup, isn't it? Let's just say I think people deserve to know who they're really dealing with. Friday afternoon, Kara came home early. She looked exhausted, her usual perfect appearance slightly disheveled. I told him, she said without preamble. Told him what? Everything. That it was fake, that I never intended to leave you, that I was just trying to make you jealous. I looked up from my laptop. How did he take it? About as well as you'd expect. He called me some names I won't repeat, then said he was going to make sure everyone knew what kind of person I really am. And I'm probably going to lose my job. He's already talked to HR about my unprofessional conduct. They're launching an investigation. I felt a flicker of something that might have been sympathy. Might have been. I'm sorry, I said. Are you? I'm sorry you're facing consequences for your choices. I'm not sorry you made them. She sat down on the couch, looking older than her 36 years. I know you hate me right now, she said quietly. I don't hate you, Kara. I'm disappointed. I'm hurt. I'm angry. But I don't hate you. Do you still love me? The question hung in the air between us like a challenge. I love the woman I married, I said finally. I'm not sure who you've become. I'm still me. I got lost for a while. You got manipulated by Lena, by your own insecurities, by the idea that love has to be dramatic to be real. Maybe. Definitely. She was quiet for a moment. Then, what happens now? Now we see if there's anything left to salvage. Is there? I closed my laptop and really looked at her. My wife of 8 years, the woman who'd shared my bed and my dreams and my daily life, who'd somehow convinced herself that testing me was better than trusting me. I don't know, I said honestly, but tomorrow night should be interesting. Tomorrow night? The charity gala. You're still giving your presentation, aren't you? Her face went pale. Julian, what did you do? Nothing yet, I said. But the night is young? Saturday evening arrived with the kind of crisp October air that made Chicago feel alive with possibility. I stood in front of our bedroom mirror, adjusting my tie and watching Kara get ready for what would probably be the most important presentation of her career, for all the wrong reasons. She'd chosen a navy blue dress, conservative and professional, her hair pulled back in the kind of neat bun that said, trustworthy executive. But I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands shook slightly as she applied her lipstick. You don't have to do this, she said, meeting my eyes in the mirror. Do what? Whatever you're planning for tonight. I turned to face her directly. What makes you think I'm planning anything? Because I know you now, the real you. And the real you doesn't just forgive and forget. She was right, of course. The past week had stripped away the comfortable fiction that I was the same easygoing husband who'd let her walk all over our marriage without consequences. The real me, I repeated. You mean the version that actually fights back? Julian, please, I've already lost Elias, probably my job, and half my friends. Isn't that enough? I considered the question seriously. A week ago, I might have said yes. The old Julian would have been satisfied with her obvious misery, ready to forgive and rebuild, but the old Julian hadn't known his wife was capable of orchestrating an elaborate deception just to test his devotion. The old Julian had trusted that the woman he loved wouldn't involve other people in their private problems, wouldn't risk their marriage for the sake of drama. Ask me tomorrow, I said. The charity gala was held at the Palmer House, one of Chicago's grand old hotels. The ballroom was filled with the kind of people who wrote checks to feel better about their privilege. Business leaders, politicians, society wives with more money than sense. Kara and I worked the room separately, which had become our pattern over the years. She networked with professional contacts while I gravitated toward the handful of people I actually enjoyed talking to. I found Derek and Sarah near the bar, both looking slightly uncomfortable in their formal wear but gamely trying to fit in. Fancy party, Derek said, accepting a beer from the bartender. Sarah made me rent this tux. You look distinguished, I told him. I look like a penguin. But Sarah's happy, so I'm happy. Sarah was scanning the crowd, her gossip radar finely tuned. Is that Lena over there, by the auction table? I followed her gaze and spotted Lena Morell holding court with a small group of women, her voice carrying across the room in animated conversation. Looks like she's doing damage control, Sarah observed. What kind of damage control? The kind where she's telling everyone that the rumors about Kara are completely false, spread by jealous neighbors who don't understand female friendship. I smiled. How's that working out for her? Not well, especially since half these women have heard the stories about her liberation seminars for married women. Derek leaned closer. So what's the plan, Julian? You said people should pay attention to Kara's presentation. They should. It's going to be very educational. Before Derek could ask what I meant, the lights dimmed and the evening's program began. The hospital administrator gave a brief speech about the importance of community support, followed by a few testimonials from grateful families. Then it was Kara's turn. She walked to the podium with her usual confidence, but I could see the tension in her posture as she adjusted the microphone. Her presentation was about corporate social responsibility, how businesses could partner with nonprofits to make a real difference in their communities. She was 3 minutes into her speech when the first phone started buzzing. It was subtle at first, just a few people glancing at their devices with confused expressions. But within minutes, half the audience was checking their phones, whispers spreading through the crowd like wildfire. I pulled out my own phone and opened the anonymous email account I'd created that morning. The message had been sent to every contact in Kara's professional network, along with a carefully curated list of social media influencers and local gossip bloggers. The subject line was simple: The truth about Kara Kepler. The body of the email contained screenshots of her messages with Elias, her conversations with Lena about manipulating me, and a detailed timeline of her affair that made it clear the whole thing had been an elaborate test of her husband's devotion. But the real masterpiece was the audio file attached to the email, a recording of Kara's phone conversation with Lena from earlier that week, where she'd admitted the entire scheme and laughed about how easy it had been to manipulate both Elias and me. I'd recorded it using an app on my phone while she was talking in our kitchen, her voice carrying clearly through the thin walls of our house. Kara was still speaking, but her audience was no longer listening. Phones were buzzing constantly now, and the whispers had grown loud enough to compete with her microphone. She paused mid-sentence, looking out at the crowd with growing confusion. Is everything all right? She asked. That's when Lena stood up from her table near the back of the room, her face white with rage. You lying witch! She shouted, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent ballroom. How could you record our private conversation? Every head in the room turned toward Lena, then swiveled back to Kara, who was standing frozen at the podium. I don't know what you're talking about, Kara said, but her voice was shaking. The recording. The one where you're laughing about manipulating your husband and Elias. The one where you call me your useful idiot for giving you the idea. I had to give Lena credit. She was throwing Kara under the bus with impressive thoroughness. Of course, she was also trying to save her own reputation by painting herself as another one of Kara's victims. The hotel manager appeared at the edge of the room, clearly wondering if he needed to call security. The hospital administrator was making frantic gestures from the side of the stage, trying to figure out how to salvage the evening. But I wasn't done yet. I stood up from my table, every eye in the room turning toward me. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, my voice carrying clearly in the stunned silence. I think there's been some confusion about tonight's presentation. Kara's eyes found mine across the room, and I saw the exact moment she realized what was happening. My wife was supposed to talk about corporate social responsibility, I continued, walking slowly toward the stage. But it seems like we're getting a different kind of lesson tonight, about personal responsibility. Julian, don't, Kara whispered into the microphone. See, some of you have just learned that my wife orchestrated an elaborate scheme to test our marriage, I said, reaching the foot of the stage. She enlisted her friend Lena to give her advice on how to manipulate me, then recruited a coworker named Elias to play the role of her lover. The silence was complete now, hundreds of people hanging on every word. The goal was to make me jealous, to force me to fight for our relationship. Because apparently 8 years of marriage, loyalty, and partnership wasn't enough proof of my devotion. I climbed the steps to the stage, standing next to Kara at the podium. She was trembling, tears streaming down her face, but she didn't move away. The irony, I continued, is that she got exactly what she wanted. I did fight, just not the way she expected. I turned to face her directly, speaking into the microphone so everyone could hear. You wanted passion, Kara? You wanted to see me care enough to take action? Congratulations, you succeeded. Then I walked off the stage and out of the ballroom, leaving my wife standing alone in front of 400 people who now knew exactly what kind of person she really was. Derek and Sarah caught up with me in the hotel lobby. "Jesus, Julian," Derek said. "That was brutal," Sarah finished, "but effective." "Is it over?" Derek asked. I looked back toward the ballroom, where I could hear the buzz of excited conversation and the click of high heels as people rushed to spread the news. "Not yet," I said, "but soon." My phone was already ringing. Reporters, probably, or bloggers who'd been at the gala. The story would be all over social media within hours, in the local papers by morning. Kara had wanted everyone to see her husband fight for their marriage. Mission accomplished. I drove home through the quiet suburban streets, my phone buzzing constantly with calls and texts from numbers I didn't recognize. The story was already spreading. I could see the glow of phone screens in restaurant windows and coffee shops as people shared the videos that were undoubtedly flooding social media. Someone had recorded my speech at the gala, probably several someones. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the first news van was already parked across the street. I sat in my car for a moment, watching a reporter adjust her makeup in the van's side mirror while her cameraman checked his equipment. This was really happening. My private marital problems were about to become public entertainment. A year ago, the thought would have horrified me. Tonight, it felt like justice. I was halfway to my front door when my phone rang. "Kara." "Julian, where are you?" "Home. Where are you?" "Still at the hotel. I can't leave. There are reporters everywhere." "I know. There's one across from our house." "Julian, this is insane. You've destroyed both of us." "I've destroyed the lie we were living. There's a difference." "The lie?" Her voice cracked. "Julian, whatever I did, we were still married. We still had a life together. You've just burned it all down for revenge." I unlocked my front door and stepped into our perfect house. The house Kara had decorated like a magazine spread, where every surface was curated for maximum impact. "You burned it down first," I said. "I just lit the match." "That's not... Julian, I need you to fix this." "Fix what?" "Call the reporters. Tell them it was all a misunderstanding, that we're working through our problems privately." I laughed, surprising myself with the sound. "You want me to lie for you now?" "I want you to save our marriage. Our marriage died the moment you decided to test it instead of trust it." "That's not true. Julian, I love you. I've always loved you. I just got confused, got caught up in Lena's nonsense. But we can fix this." I walked through our living room, looking at the photos on the mantel. Our wedding day, vacations, anniversary dinners. All of it felt like evidence from someone else's life. "How?" I asked. "How do we fix the fact that you involved another man in our relationship? How do we fix the fact that you lied to me for weeks? How do we fix the fact that you recorded conversations with your friends, planning ways to manipulate me?" "I never recorded." "I recorded you, Kara, talking to Lena in our kitchen, laughing about how easy it was to fool both Elias and me." Silence. Then, "You recorded me? In our own house?" "You left your laptop open for days, hoping I'd see those emails. You wanted me to know about Elias. This is just the logical next step." "Julian, that's sick." "Is it? Or is it just playing by the rules you established?" I could hear voices in the background, reporters probably, shouting questions as Kara tried to leave the hotel. "I have to go," she said. "But Julian, this isn't over. We need to talk." "We are talking. I mean really talk. Face to face. About what happens next. What happens next is you deal with the consequences of your choices. And what about you? You think you're going to come out of this looking like the hero?" I considered that. She was right. I wouldn't emerge from this mess unscathed. People would judge me for the public humiliation, for recording private conversations, for choosing revenge over reconciliation, but I'd rather be judged for fighting back than pitied for being a fool. "I think I'm going to come out of this looking like someone who refuses to be manipulated," I said. "Julian?" I hung up and turned off my phone. The next few hours passed in a strange kind of suspended animation. I made coffee, ate leftover pizza, and watched the story explode across social media from the safety of my living room. The hashtag #PossessiveGame was trending on Twitter, with thousands of people sharing their opinions about my marriage, my wife, and my methods. Some called me a hero for exposing Kara's manipulation. Others called me a monster for destroying her so publicly. The video of my speech at the gala had been viewed over 1 million times. Around midnight, I heard a car pull into the driveway. I looked out the window and saw Kara getting out of an Uber, her head down as she hurried toward the front door. She let herself in quietly, probably hoping I was asleep. "Julian?" she called softly. "In here." She found me in the living room, still scrolling through social media reactions to our very public meltdown. She looked terrible. Her makeup smeared, her dress wrinkled, her hair falling out of its neat bun. But there was something different in her eyes, a hardness I'd never seen before. "We need to talk," she said. "So talk." She sat down on the opposite end of the couch, as far from me as possible. "You've won," she said simply. "Is that what you want to hear? You've completely destroyed me. My career is over, my friendships are ruined, and I'm probably going to be a social media joke for the next 6 months. Congratulations?" "I didn't want to destroy you, Kara. I wanted you to understand what you were doing to us. By humiliating me in front of 400 people, by showing you what it feels like to have your private life turned into public entertainment. That's not the same thing, isn't it? You involved Elias in our marriage. You got Lena to help you manipulate me. You turned our relationship into a game with an audience. I just expanded the audience." She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. "What do you want from me?" she asked finally. "I want you to understand that actions have consequences, that you can't play with people's lives and expect them to just accept it. I understand that now. Do you? Or are you just sorry you got caught?" She looked up at me, and I saw something break behind her eyes. "I'm sorry I married someone who could do this to me," she said quietly. "And I'm sorry I married someone who thought our relationship was a game to be won." We sat in silence for a while, the weight of 8 years pressing down on us like a physical thing. "So, what happens now?" she asked. "Now you figure out how to rebuild your life, and I figure out how to rebuild mine. Together?" I looked at my wife, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in months. She was still beautiful, still the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. But she was also the woman who'd orchestrated an elaborate deception to test my devotion, who'd involved other people in our private problems, who'd been willing to risk everything we'd built together for the sake of drama. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Julian, I know I made mistakes." "You didn't make mistakes, Kara. You made choices, deliberate, calculated choices, and now we both have to live with them." "So that's it? 8 years of marriage, and you're just going to throw it all away?" "You threw it away the moment you decided to test me instead of trust me." She started crying then. Real tears, not the performance tears she'd been using for weeks. But even her genuine emotion felt manipulative now, like another move in a game I was tired of playing. "I love you," she whispered. "I know you do. But love isn't enough anymore." "What would be enough?" I thought about that for a long moment. Time travel, a chance to go back and make different choices, a version of you that trusted our marriage enough not to sabotage it. "I can't give you any of that." "I know." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing what was left of her makeup. "The reporters will be back tomorrow," she said. "This is going to get worse before it gets better." "Probably. We should present a united front. Tell them we're working through our problems privately." "Are we?" "We could be." I shook my head. "No more games, Kara. No more performances. No more manipulation." "Then what?" "Then we tell the truth, that our marriage is over." The words hung in the air between us like a verdict. "Julian, please." "I'm tired, Kara. I'm tired of wondering what you're really thinking. Tired of analyzing your every word for hidden meaning. Tired of feeling like I'm failing some test I didn't know I was taking. It doesn't have to be like that. It will always be like that, because now I know what you're capable of when you don't get what you want." She was quiet for a long time, staring at the photos on our mantel. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said finally. "But it did, and we can't go back." "No," she agreed quietly. "We can't." She stood up, smoothing down her wrinkled dress. "I'm going to stay at my sister's for a while," she said. "Give us both some space to think." "That's probably a good idea." She headed toward the stairs, then stopped and turned back. "Julian, for what it's worth, you were right. About everything. I did get lost for a while. And I did let Lena manipulate me into thinking our marriage needed drama to be real." "I know. But you were wrong about one thing." "What's that?" "I wasn't testing your love. I was testing my own worth. I wanted to know if you'd fight for me because I wasn't sure I was worth fighting for." She disappeared upstairs, leaving me alone with that revelation. 20 minutes later, I heard her car pull out of the driveway. I sat in our empty house, surrounded by the remnants of our life together, and tried to figure out how I felt about winning a game I'd never wanted to play. Outside, the reporter's van was still parked across the street, waiting for tomorrow's headlines. Inside, everything was quiet. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. 3 days later, I was sitting in my home office when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see Elias Corvin standing on my front porch, looking like a man who'd been through a blender. The media attention had not been kind to him. His role in Kara's scheme had made him a figure of public ridicule. The other man who'd been played by a manipulative wife, the predator who'd been outmaneuvered by his intended victim's husband. His employer had fired him yesterday, citing conduct unbecoming and violation of workplace harassment policies. His ex-wife had given an interview to a gossip blog, detailing his pattern of pursuing married women. His social media accounts had been flooded with mocking comments and memes. I opened the door, but didn't invite him in. "Julian," he said, his voice hoarse, "we need to talk." "Do we? This has gone too far. You've destroyed both of us for what? Revenge? I've exposed both of you for what you are. There's a difference." "What I am?" His composure cracked. "I'm a man who fell for a woman who was lying to me from the beginning. I'm as much a victim here as you are. No, Elias, you're a man who pursues married women as a hobby. Kara was just the latest in a long line of conquests. The only difference is this time the husband fought back. I loved her." "You loved the idea of taking her away from me. That's not the same thing." He stepped closer, and I could smell the alcohol on his breath. "You think you're so clever, don't you? Turning everyone against us, making yourself look like the wronged husband." "I am the wronged husband. You're a vindictive bastard who couldn't handle the fact that his wife wanted something more than your boring, passionless marriage." I smiled, which seemed to infuriate him more. "You know what's funny, Elias? You still don't get it. Kara never wanted you. She wanted to use you to get a reaction out of me. You were just a prop in her little drama." "That's not true." "It's completely true, and deep down, you know it. That's why you're here, drinking in the middle of the afternoon, looking for someone to blame for your own stupidity." He raised his hand like he was going to hit me, then seemed to remember that we were standing on my front porch in broad daylight, probably being photographed by the reporters who'd been camped across the street for 3 days. "This isn't over," he said instead. "Yes, it is. Your part in this story ended the moment Kara told you the truth. Now you're just a footnote." I closed the door in his face and watched through the window as he stumbled back to his car, nearly falling off the porch steps in the process. My phone rang. "Derek. You okay over there? Sarah saw some guy at your door, looked like he was causing trouble." "Elias Corvin, making his final exit from the story." "Want me to come over?" "No, but thanks. I think the drama is finally winding down." "What about Kara? You heard from her?" "I had, actually. She'd called twice from her sister's house, both times asking if we could work something out before the divorce papers were finalized. Both times, I'd told her the same thing. It was too late for working anything out. She's staying with family for now, trying to figure out her next move. And you? You figure out yours yet?" I looked around my empty house. Our empty house, technically, though it felt more like a museum of a relationship that had died weeks ago. "I'm thinking of selling this place," I said. "Too many memories." "Good memories or bad memories?" "Both. Which is the problem?" That evening, I was packing books in my office when I heard a car in the driveway. I looked out and saw Kara's Honda, followed by a second car I didn't recognize. She got out of her car first, then waited as 3 other people emerged from the second vehicle. I recognized one of them, her sister Michelle, who'd never liked me much. The other 2 were strangers, but something about their professional demeanor suggested lawyers. This was it, then. The final confrontation. I opened the front door before they could ring the bell. "Kara. Julian. Can we come in?" I stepped aside, and the 4 of them filed into my living room. Michelle gave me a look that could have curdled milk, while the 2 lawyers, a man and a woman, both in expensive suits, arranged themselves on either side of Kara like bodyguards. "This is Robert Chen and Amanda Foster," Kara said. "My legal representation." "I see. And Michelle's here for moral support?" "I'm here to make sure you don't manipulate my sister any more than you already have," Michelle said sharply. I almost laughed. "Manipulate her? That's rich, coming from someone who encouraged her to test our marriage in the first place." "I never—" "Michelle," Kara said quietly, "let's just get through this." Robert Chen opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "Mr. Kepler, we're here to discuss the terms of your divorce settlement." I wasn't aware we were negotiating terms. I thought we were just dividing assets. "It's more complicated than that," Amanda Foster said. "Your actions over the past week have caused significant damage to Ms. Kepler's reputation and career prospects. We believe compensation is appropriate." "Compensation for what?" "Intentional infliction of emotional distress, public humiliation, invasion of privacy." I looked at Kara, who was staring at her hands. "You're suing me?" "I'm protecting myself." she said quietly. From what? From you. She looked up, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Fear. Julian, you recorded private conversations in our own home. You exposed intimate details of our marriage to hundreds of people. You've made me a laughingstock on social media. I exposed the truth about what you were doing to our marriage. You destroyed my life for revenge. I defended myself against your manipulation. Robert Chen cleared his throat. Mr. Kepler, we're prepared to offer you a settlement that would avoid a lengthy court battle. Ms. Kepler keeps the house and her retirement accounts. You keep your accounts and your car. In exchange, you agree not to discuss your marriage publicly and to remove any recordings you may have made. And if I don't agree? Then we go to court, and a judge decides how much you owe my client for the damage you've caused. I looked around the room, at Kara's lawyers with their confident expressions, at Michelle with her barely contained hostility, at Kara herself, who couldn't meet my eyes. You know what's interesting? I said finally. A week ago, Kara was begging me to forgive her, to work things out, to save our marriage. Now she's threatening to sue me. A week ago, I still thought you were the man I married, Kara said, before I saw what you were really capable of. What I'm capable of is refusing to be manipulated. If that scares you, maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to test our relationship. Julian, Amanda Foster said, we're trying to resolve this amicably, but if you force us to go to court, then we go to court, I interrupted. And a jury gets to hear all the details about how your client orchestrated an elaborate scheme to manipulate her husband, involving her coworkers and friends in a plan to make me jealous. It's exactly what happened, and I have the evidence to prove it. Emails, text messages, recorded conversations where she admits the whole thing was fake. Robert Chen and Amanda Foster exchanged glances. Those recordings were made without consent, Chen said. They might not be admissible. Maybe, but the emails and text messages will be, along with testimony from Aloysius about how Kara recruited him to play the role of her lover, along with testimony from Lena about the advice she gave Kara on how to manipulate me. I stood up, signaling that the meeting was over. Here's my counteroffer, I said. We divide our assets equally as required by Illinois law. No alimony, no compensation, no non-disclosure agreements. We both walk away and try to rebuild our lives separately. That's not acceptable, Michelle said. It's completely acceptable. It's also fair, which is more than I can say for the scheme your sister cooked up. Kara finally looked at me directly. Julian, I know you're angry. I'm not angry anymore, Kara. I'm done. With the games, with the manipulation, with the drama, I just want this to be over. So do I, she said quietly. Then tell your lawyers to draw up standard divorce papers. Equal division of assets. No fault, no complications. Robert Chen started to object, but Kara held up a hand. Fine, she said. Equal division. No fault. Kara, Michelle protested. No, Michelle. He's right. I caused this mess. I don't get to profit from it. The lawyers packed up their papers with obvious disappointment, while Michelle glared at me like I'd personally ruined her day. As they headed for the door, Kara lingered behind. Julian, for what it's worth, I really am sorry. About all of it. I know you are. Do you think, someday, we might be able to be friends? I considered the question seriously. Could I be friends with someone who'd manipulated me so thoroughly? Someone who'd involved other people in our private problems? Someone who'd been willing to risk everything we'd built together for the sake of testing my devotion? I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe, but not anytime soon. She nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. I understand. Kara, for what it's worth, I hope you figure out what you're really looking for, and I hope you find it without having to manipulate anyone else. After they left, I finished packing my books and started on the photos. 8 years of marriage reduced to cardboard boxes and legal documents. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Sarah made chili again. You hungry? I looked around the empty house one more time, then grabbed my keys. On my way, I texted back. Outside, the reporter's van was gone. The story had moved on to other scandals, other dramas, other people's private pain made public. I drove through the quiet suburban streets toward Derek and Sarah's house, where dinner would be simple and honest, where no one would be testing anyone else's devotion, where friendship meant what it said, and love didn't require games to prove itself. Behind me, the house where I'd learned the difference between being loved and being manipulated grew smaller in my rearview mirror. Ahead, the road stretched out like a promise of something better. I rolled down the windows, turned up the radio, and drove toward whatever came next. The possessive game was finally over, and for the first time in months, I felt like I'd won something worth having, my freedom.